Hi, I'm Michelle Mercurio. Welcome to the show where we interview people who have ditched their plan to pursue their purpose. Let's dive in. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to be here with Tisha Michelle, who is a spiritual guide, and she does so many cool different things, but I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about who she is and why she is here today. So, Tisha, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, my pleasure.
So we talked right before I hit the record button. And I said, how do you want me to introduce you? And you said, this is the famous question. And don't pigeonhole me into anything because that shit changes. So let's talk a little bit about what it is let's talk about who you are, not necessarily what you do, because I think they're very linked for you.
Yeah, and I love how you say like not necessarily like what you do because I think that's where we get caught up in. It's like you start listing off all the things, and that's why I was like, don't lock me into anything because by the time the people listen to this, I probably won't even be doing that anymore. So really, the biggest thing for me, I say, is like, who am I? And I'll just say I am really a being just out here, just rediscovering myself every single day. So it's really hard for me to answer that question of like who I am because I'm still discovering that, and I think that's a beautiful part. There was a part of me that felt like that was, like, "You should have an answer, you should have an answer." But the more and more I learn about myself, the better and the stronger I feel with being able to say, "I'm really just a being out here really rediscovering myself every single day, and I'm okay with that." So that's who I am.
I
Now it's a
think
little
that
different. You want me to list off things that I do, that's a whole different thing.
Well, we can talk about that in a minute, but I think that that is a really powerful thing, that having an identity that is, I think you have many things that you're really strongly rooted in, and yet you embrace shifting and change and exploration and excavation, and that is an identity in itself.
Mm,
The fact
yes.
that yeah, I want to get into a little bit about this and then we can talk about what you do. Recently, you packed up everything and you just decided, hey, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone in Virginia and I'm moving to Arizona. Tell us a
Mm,
little bit
yeah.
about that because you have residences in two places now.
Yeah, yeah. So I knew I've always known that I was gonna leave Virginia. I've always known that. So that's the cool thing. I kind of felt like it wasn't gonna be until after my youngest son was done with school. So I locked myself into here until he was 18. And that right now my youngest is 11. And going on this self discovery and learning more about myself and just spirituality and like my guides and stuff, it really was popping up for me to move and I was feeling it really strong. I thought I was moving to California, to LA, to be honest. That's where that it was. And then I remember one day I was going for a walk and I was like, you know what, Spirit? I make the decision to move. I said, but I want to move to wherever I'm going to be able to best serve, but also be served, wherever that is. And then Arizona popped up. And from that part is where all the signs were pointing to it. So this was all within a matter of a couple months. Right. And mind you, my son was what, maybe like 8 at the time. So it was like, wait a minute, how am I moving if I said it wasn't going to be until he got out of school? Because there was no way that I was going to take him to Arizona because then he wouldn't be with his dad, just like I wouldn't want his dad to do, that. So at that point, it was more of the rigid thinking of like, oh, there's only one way to do this. And then spirit started opening things up, and it was like, homeschool him. But the homeschool had nothing to do with me moving. It was more about my son was just bored in school. He was bored in school. His teacher was like, he just comes up with these like amazing ways to do like the math. And she was like, he's bored. So whenever he's done with the work, she has to give him personally more work because he doesn't have anything else to do. And I was like, wait a minute, he's not being stimulated. That got to be awful to be in a place for all those hours and not, you know what I mean? So I started looking into the homeschool. So every excuse and everything, every fear that I had was taken away. And spirit was like, all right, it's time to go.
What you just said, though, about that whole idea of you thought that there was one way to do things, but there isn't. You kind of
Yeah.
let it go and just the doors opened in different ways. So keep going. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. Yeah. So one of the biggest, and which is something that I've learned now on this journey, is that there is more than one way to do things, right? And as long as you open yourself up, and once you make that decision to face like your fear you don't even have to face, you don't even have to do it. Like once you just make the decision, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna face the big bad thing. Then all of a sudden you notice it's not even there. So it's just making that decision. And for me, one of the things was having the conversation with my son's dad. Even though we're great in our communication and everything, he's one of the best people I know. Was great. I was still afraid to say I want to homeschool him because I was like, oh my god, what is he gonna say? He's not thinking the way that I'm thinking. What is this? What is that? So I had everything. I wrote down all the things. I was like, oh, he's gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this. He's gonna say this, and I'm gonna say that. And I called him and I said, so I was thinking like I want to homeschool, SJ. He was like, I don't give a F as long as I don't have to do anything. I was like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah, messed your head up with that one, right? I was like, wait a minute. I just had a whole list of things. He was like, as long as I don't have to do anything. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, that was a big pivotal part in my life where it was like these things that you make as an excuse or as a fear, once you decide to face them, spirit will take them away when you're in alignment with whatever it is. Right. And it wasn't because he's a parent that just doesn't care about any of this stuff. He has his own business, things going on. He was like, as long as I don't have to teach him, he was like, I'm cool with it. And I was like, okay, because it was in alignment. Everything was in alignment. So, with that being said, now that he's homeschooled, I can actually, when it presented itself, I can move wherever I want. Because we just have to just work out, the things. So that's where it was like, okay, let's go to Arizona.
So, two quick things, and I want to come back to this idea of alignment because I know it's such a key part of what it is that you're all about and what it is that you actually do, and also who you are. So, let's table that for a quick second. One of the things that you said, though, is kind of having that big long list of, of things and not being able to, I guess, kind of trust that they're going to resolve themselves. When we come up against that fear, though, I think that we automatically are going to manifest all of the things that we're fearing if we don't just let those down for a short while and understand, what is actually true versus what are the stories we're telling ourselves. And I know both you and I talk about that a lot. So tell me a little bit about this idea of being in two places because I know you didn't want to take your son away from his dad, but you also want to explore and you're also giving him new opportunities to see other ways of living. So tell me about this idea that you're living in two places.
Yeah. So it was interesting because I really started thinking about it. I said, wait a minute, why should I not be able to move because somebody else doesn't want to move? I'm like, that really doesn't make any sense. And this was only because my eyes started opening, where before it was just like, no, I mean, it's just what it is. I knew Virginia was never going to be my forever place. I've lived here a long, long time, but I just didn't really feel like I was growing, in that sense. So, at the time with me and like my son, it was 1 week on, 1 week off. So he was with me for a week and then with his dad for a week. And that way everything is just equal. So he doesn't know anything any different. So I was like, I don't know how that 1 week is gonna work if I'm moving all the way to to Arizona. So me and his dad was like, well, we'll just his dad was like, we'll figure something out that would make sense. And he was like, well, what about 1 month on, 1 month off? So I had to stop and think. I said, what is in the way of me being able to not have it like this? And I was like, oh, it's money. If that's the only thing that's in my way, then I really don't have anything in my way. I just got to come up with a solution, right? That's it. So then I was like, okay, so I just have to have the money to be able to go 1 week on, 1 week off. And then when we were talking, it was like, that's going to be a lot on him as a kid to travel, right? To hop on a plane going back, for 1 week and then come back and I was like, okay, we don't want to do that with him because that doesn't make sense. So when he said the 1 month off, and 1 month on, first I felt very uncomfortable. I was like, I gotta be away from my son for a whole month. Oh my God, I don't know if I could do that. Like that's just like, eh. But then I had to, work through that. Right. I had to work through that. And I was like, I could do that. I think I could do that. I think he'll be okay. So what we said was we're gonna do this until he has a problem with it. Because I know that my son's going to have his own fair share of lessons, in his lifetime that has nothing to do with me. However, I don't want to add to it, right? I don't want to add to it. So it was like, okay, so we're gonna do the 1 month on, 1 month off, and that's what we did. So he was with his dad for a month here, and then because originally the plan was I would just get a place in Virginia, and then when it's come back here and stay. But then I was like, I don't have the money to do that as I'm leaving. Like I don't have the money to do that. So I was like, that's just not even an option right now. And so yeah, so he would come to Arizona and he would be there for, the month, and then I would bring him back. And it was cool until it wasn't cool anymore. He was like, you know what, Mom? He's like, I need you to you just need to move back. He was like, because I don't really want to keep like taking, flying and stuff. So I was like, okay, say less. We never told him that whenever it gets up, we never said that to him. We didn't want to put that in his head. We said it amongst ourselves. So once he said that, I then said, okay, I can just stay in Virginia, but I didn't have anywhere to live. So we were at my mom's house. And I was like, okay, so we were at my mom's house. So that month I was in Virginia with my son. So that way all he had to do was just leave from his dad to come there. So I was like, okay, this could work. But I was like, I've been on my own for a very, very long time, so I need my own place. So yeah, so I then made the decision and I was like, I should just get an apartment here too. So when it's my turn with him, I'll just be here and I'll just have the two places, which was the original plan. It's just at that time it just wasn't an option. So the beauty in this is, when you have like a plan and this is what you think in your head, it's okay if it doesn't work out. It just means it's just not ready, and obviously it depends on the situation, but it's okay that if it doesn't happen the way that you think that it's, going to happen. But that was the original plan. The original plan was to have a place in Virginia and have a place in Arizona, but I had to be realistic. I didn't have the money for that. I didn't have the money to pay for, on both. But once he started feeling some type of way, I was like, okay, well, I can just stay here. We'll stay at my mom's house, which everything was cool. But I knew that I needed a spot. And that then became a challenge. But that challenge was in my head. I was like, what can I really pay for? A first month's rent and a deposit. Then I got to furnish it. That means I have to have two of everything, have everything over there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm being really indecisive. I just need to make a decision and I need to just trust that if this is not in alignment, I'll probably have a lot of obstacles and a lot of things. And I applied at this, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to apply for an apartment. Apply for an apartment. And they had a special, the guy was like, oh yeah, everything came back. Check your credit. Everything's great. You don't have, and I was like, okay, so how much is the deposit? Oh, no deposit. Wait, what? Only thing I had to pay was like 99 bucks. I was like, and up short palm for people who are in Richmond. I was like, wait, what just happened? And it was so easy. And I was like, that's when you know that it's in alignment.
I
So yeah.
love this. I love how you also described about a plan, right? Because I mean, the whole purpose of the show is how to ditch your plan and pursue that purpose. Because I think plans always give us this false sense of control over something. And if we're trying to control something, it doesn't work. If we're trying to be in it and seeing if it's aligned, that's when things happen. So let's talk a little bit about
Absolutely.
alignment then. And let's talk about your tagline that is part of your life and part of your mantra. And well, probably is a lot of what you do in this world. Heal, align, glow. So tell us a little bit about where that came from.
So it was interesting. I was watching, I don't know if you ever watched the show Good Witch or not. It's if not, you need to watch it, like the series. So her okay, yeah. So her place is called Bell Book and Candle. And I remember watching it one day, like I stumbled upon it. I was like, oh my God, this is totally like my show. I was like, that's me. I'm gonna be like that neighborhood witch, everybody goes to for everything. And I remember looking at the name, it was like Bell Book and Candle, and I was like, that's super cute, right? That was it. So maybe like a week later, I was in my house, I was washing dishes. I just came back from a walk. And I remember walking up the steps and I was like, so it's heal, align, and glow. And I said, align, heal, and glow. And I was like, oh my God, where did that just come from? So I instantly wrote it down. It just popped in my head and I wrote it down on paper. And I was like, it's not flowing. And then I was like, heal, align, and glow. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. That's it. Then I was like, wait, what is this? Because it was just dropping in. And I was like, That's my business. That's my company name. So the thing is that the heal is like you going through whatever your process is in your journey that you're doing to heal, right? So as you're going through that, once you're going through that, because I personally, I don't feel like the healing really ever ends in a sense, because there's different things that may come up and stuff, right? So I'm like, as you're going through this healing process, this is when you really start to be in alignment with like your purpose, alignment, what, things you want to do. And then that ultimate is that glow. And that glow comes from my best friend, the one that passed away. And her name is Gloria, but she went by Glow. So I was like, to me, like that's like the ultimate, because that's what it was for me. My awakening, my true, that major awakening happened because of her. And with that death happening, it got me back onto my path of my purpose. And then from that point, I've helped so many other people, and seeing how many other people are like evolving, I'm like, that's the ultimate. That's the glow. So that was where the heal line and glow came from. And then when I was looking at the letters, I was like, HAG. I was like, hag. Oh my God, it's hag. And then, when people think about hag, they think about like, oh my God, this awful witchy person. I'm like, but you know what? Witch is just means wise woman. I was like, oh my God, you can't make this up.
Yes, you are claiming the hag in a totally gorgeous and glowing way. I love it. Tell
Absolutely.
us
So,
about
I wish I could
Gloria.
take the credit. Yeah, so Gloria's my best friend, like my ride or die, like my everything. We met when I was 15, maybe, yeah. Yeah, I was 15. She was older than me, so almost 2 years older than me. 15 when she moved to excuse me, to Virginia. And so we met, then instantly became, best friends. Then I ended up getting in a relationship with her brother. And we had 3 kids and, ended up marrying him. So it went from a friendship to family. Like it's family. Like, I mean, I was 15 years old, in that family and still in that family. So yeah, so she was my person. So if you ever watch, Grey's Anatomy, and people are like my person, like that was my person. Like, I don't really get close to too many people. No one really knows everything like about me, and I don't really go to people for anything, but that was my person. Like that was like my, everything. And December 29th, 2017 is when she went to sleep and she didn't wake up. That of course rocked my world along with everyone, else's. And wait, was you gonna say something about that? Okay. Um, to get me to fast forward to where I'm at now, so after she had passed away, um, I don't remember the exact date, but it was after we had the service. And you know how you get the program of everything that's going. Well, her family put me, when they listed who was left behind, like her husband, her kids, her family and stuff, but they also included me. That's my person. And I had an extra copy of the program, one that was on the stand in the living room, and then I had one that was in my closet up at the top. And this is now around the holidays, and I was going to get some tape, right? Some like scotch tape. And when I put my hand up there to get the scotch tape, I touched the program. And I like pulled the program and I just started crying. And I'm home by myself. I'm in the closet. I'm sitting on the floor and I'm doing that ugly cry where you can't breathe. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the listeners have been there before, maybe for something different. But I'm just bawling my eyes out. And I just kept saying out loud, and now I'm talking to this God, whatever this God is that people talk about, right? Whatever, somebody, whoever wants to listen. I'm home alone. I'm just talking and I'm like, there has to be more to life than this. And I said, because if this is it, I don't want to be here. And I always have to point out and let people know I was not suicidal, but I was questioning my existence. Because I said, if you can just go to sleep and just not wake up, and you're 39 years old and you have kids, and we just talked a couple of days prior about these plans for like opening like this alcohol line and all these different things, and it's not going to happen. This doesn't make any sense. And I just kept saying, there has to be more to life than this. And I found out that there is. So it was a couple of days afterwards when her sister called me and was just like, Aunt Anna just sent me, because she had a breakdown in a limo, and she was literally like banging the thing, and she was like, this is effing stupid. This doesn't make any sense. I need answers, and I need answers now. And her aunt referred her to 2 psychics. Now, mind you, Aaliyah, which is her sister, and we've gotten super close since then, she's very witchy. They always call her witch. She'd be like, "Yep, and I know it," you know? So she grew up in that sense, you know, talking to psychics and getting readings and doing all of that. I, on the other hand, wanted nothing to do with that. I just thought it was a bunch of BS, and I thought it was also super scary, and don't talk to me with any of that, even though I also grew up in that with my mom and, like, my grandmother, like, seeing, like, the dead and all of that. So she called me and she said that Anna has sent her 2 people, 2 psychics. I'm like, "Okay." You know, and I just trust her, so I'm listening to what she's saying, and she was like, "Yeah, I was talking to this one," and she was like, "Mhm." She's like, "But all the things that she was saying," she was like, "Wait a minute, this lady is for real." So I remember saying to her, I was like, "Oh my god." I was like, "I need to talk to her. I need to talk to her. I need to talk to this lady." And I was like, "You gotta send me her number." I was like, "How much did it cost?" She's like, "I don't know. Aunt Anna paid for it." And I was like, "I don't even care how much it costs. I'll figure it out." And so we got off the phone. But I know she gets super busy. And so I text again. I was like, "Don't forget to send me the number." So she sends me the number to this person. So I called her and she didn't answer, but I left a message, and I was on the phone and she calls me back and was like, when the number popped up on my phone, I had like this eerie feeling. I was like, I gotta go. I gotta go. I'll call you back. So I'm like talking to her and she's like, yeah, she was whatever day of the week it was. She was like, I actually have an opening on Sunday. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, how much is it? And she told me like her price. I'm not gonna say her price because I'm pretty sure it's done went up since then.
I'm sure. Right.
So she tells me the price, but I didn't have this is the crazy part. I didn't even have the money for to pay it because I had just paid like, I don't know, maybe between like 4 and 5,000 like my payroll and all. I was like, I can't do anything until all this money come out and then I can see what's left. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure it out. So then she said, yeah, you can just send it on Venmo or you could just send me a money order. So in my mind, I was like, oh, money order. That buys me like another day or two to get this money sent because obviously she's not pressed because she's like you send the money and I was like okay I'll figure it out. So we had that appointment on that Sunday and was with the medium, and I always like to let people know I was super super against anything of that, talking to people that talk about the dead. But I wanted to hear something so bad from my best friend that I was willing to step into the unknown. And I feel like a lot of people, when it's like your back is against the wall, or you really want something, you're like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna face that thing, whatever that thing may be. And for me, it was that it was the unknown, which is what most of everything is. And from that point, that's when everything just opened up.
I think that key point of stepping into the unknown, stepping into something that you haven't done before, stepping into maybe exploration, and that has become a key piece of everything that you do, that exploration in order to excavate and unearth what's actually underneath. It doesn't necessarily mean that the magic is in someone else. It means that you're looking for the magic in you. And I love that.
Mm, yes.
It's so important. So you do a lot of different things to bring Gloria out regularly. So talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you do in her honor.
Well, one for sure is whenever I'm on somebody's podcast or talking to stuff, I always share the story of how did this happen? Where did this, come from, in this sense. Also when I'm working with people and they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm like, oh, well, make sure you thank my best friend too. Like, so like, and I make sure that everybody I work with, they know her name, they know her name in that sense. Like, this is how this happened. Now could I have, had this awakening a different way later or something? Yeah, of course. Things, can always happen in a different sense. I don't know, but what I do know is this is where how it, it happens. So it's always making sure people know, her name. Like that to me, that's the biggest part. And just the other day when I had posted something because it was the 4 year anniversary, someone commented on there, and that was what she said. She's like, "Thank you so much for bringing, Gloria back to the front of like our minds. I really appreciate that." And I really appreciated that because I'm like, wow, because that's what it's about. So for sure, number one, that's that. So her sister started, Alea, the same sister I was talking about. She started the non-profit organization, Glow Care, to see what happens with, especially like with women and also, women of color, but women in general, we're the ones who take care of everyone. We provide for everyone. We're there for everyone, and we neglect ourselves. And Gloria had some heart issues from a younger child, as a younger child, and she was taking a lot of medicines. But then she also had the twins, and when she had the twins, they weren't even expected to even, live, and they're super, super like healthy and stuff. And at that point, because she was nursing them back, and just pouring life into them and stuff, that she forgot about herself. She wasn't even taking her medicine. And we were all so consumed with the twins, like, how's the twins? What's the doctor's appointment? What's going on with them? That we never said, how are you? We never said, "How are you doing? When was the last time you really rested?" We knew she wasn't resting. When was the last time you took, like, your medicine? Right? Like, we weren't there for her because we were all poured into the kids, right? Because they were born super early and they were in the hospital for, months. Um, so she formed a nonprofit organization because when she really started looking into it, she started seeing that this is like a epidemic of people. It's not just Gloria. It's actually a thing. And I remember her telling me that her meaning Aaliyah, her sister, that her heart doctor didn't even, like, when she was missing appointments, didn't even, like, send anything to say, "We missed your appointment." And they also knew that she was pregnant and she had a high risk pregnancy. So it's not to put the blame into it. It's just saying where you could see these different gaps, fall in, like, this in it. So where was the note or something that maybe her sister would have seen it? And again, I don't wanna make it like we're blaming on people, but you just get to see that a lot of things, you're just a patient, you're just a number, you're just a statistic, so she formed a
I think that
nonprofit
is
organization.
particularly true for women, like you said, but I think that it is systemically, even more overbearing and awful for women of color. I think that you're completely right about that. So I think that putting together, I love how she put together the nonprofit, and I want to ask you about some of the projects that you do about that. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, so saying so there was there's a nonprofit organization, so it's to give back to, women going through postpartum and being able to just, support in that sense. So the one like you participated in was we were doing baskets, for them. So the intention behind it is like it's in New York is where they started. So there's two hospitals there. And we created like the baskets that have just, everything in there for the baby, but also things for like for mom, right? And that was just the start, but the intention is for it to be global. So then there'll be a Richmond location or a Virginia location, and just keep like it's going, just being able to give there. Now we're looking into being able to provide doulas for, moms so that they can have someone that's going to advocate for them. Right. So,
So
that's the next
important.
piece of that. But yeah, so then we also do the fundraise. So we'll have that, but then there's also a fundraiser like Glow Day. So her birthday is November 8th. So they coined it Glow Day. And her sister's just been super, super amazing at putting all of that together. And that fundraiser, all the profits there go to her three kids. It goes to like their college fund, because there's now three little kids who don't have a mom, and a mother who was a mother that provides and makes sure, I mean, she did everything for her nieces and her nephews, and those are my, my kids as well too. So, that fundraiser is for there. So there's a participation,
Well, we'll link to that when we publish your episode too, and make sure that people know how to contribute.
I
So
definitely
tell us a little bit.
appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about what's next for you and how people can find you.
What is next? So I just started dabbling in real estate. So yeah, so I just started getting into real estate, and the cool thing about that is like I'm starting to see how everything is connected, right? It's not like, oh, I'm a real estate investor now. It's another part of my identity. But what it is that I'm connecting everything. So one part of it is I'm providing the, senior care homes. So part of the background before was I owned a home care agency, and then when Gloria passed, that was when I was questioning everything. Ended up selling that agency, and which was perfect. It was perfect because I needed that time for me. I ended up in Egypt and really just discovering more about myself. And now I'm back at it just in a different way in that sense. So with me purchasing the real estate, I'm now providing like the senior care home. So instead of like your loved one having to go into a facility, and especially we've seen everything with COVID, but not only that, it's just the fact of like if you depending on when you purchase the home, right? And you end up going, having a 30-year, mortgage on it. By the time you get ready or pay it off, you got Alzheimer's or something, and now you got to go into a facility. That's to me, I'm like, I don't know about that. That quality of life, and coming out of your a home section to go into like a facility. So I'm providing like the senior home. So instead of going to a facility, you'll just be there with like three, four, maybe five other people, but it's a house, it's a home. Then when your family comes to you, they're not going through a check-in thing where they're just like another, number, and it's like they're actually just going into a home. They can go in the backyard, they can go into there. So that's I've always had this thing about like about elderly people, like old people. It's just like, you're on your way out, right? Physically leaving this earth. And it doesn't need to be in a way where it's awful or anything, right? But also being able to provide the other services, helping to stimulate the brain, tapping more into that spirituality and understand because you are transitioning, right? So that's one aspect that I'm in. And then the other aspect is still doing what I'm doing, but now I'm going to be opening my first healing center actually in Virginia. So that'll be the first, the first location. It's not the ultimate because I have an even bigger vision. But this is where I'm starting because this is where I feel like it's an alignment. So that way I can kind of work things out and really get to actually get proof of concept and see it. So, for people, in Virginia, and then people can travel. Ultimately, I want people to travel. I used to always tease, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be creating like my own Mecca. People are going to be coming from all over the world to just come here just to shift that, that energy and really just be reminded of like who they are, that they can take that anywhere that they go because it's all like within them. So those are probably my biggest. And of course, I have my podcast, which is my other way that I get to pour into people since I can't do it like a bunch of one-on-one, and my retreats. So
And we
that would
will
be,
link
I would
to
pretty much
all
say
of those because your
that.
website is Heal Align Glow, GLO, no W, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
So
Yeah.
healalignGlow.com. And we will link to all of your socials as well. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing you,
My
for sharing
pleasure.
Gloria, for sharing your light and your magic. Every time I end up having some sort of conversation with you, I learn something else about you that always puts me in awe because I think that there's so much that you do, but it all connects back to who you are. And I just love that about you, Tisha.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And then you asked like, how can people find me? Like right now, the where I'm really showing up the most, where I like to like play and be at, is definitely on Instagram, and that's at Mindset Slayer. So I would probably say that's probably like the best, the best way for right now.
I love it. I watch your videos all the time. I watch the little things that you put out there all the time. So we will
Yeah.
definitely link to that as well.
No,
Thank you
I,
so
I I
much for
definitely
joining
appreciate
me
that.
today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining me today. Go ahead and like and leave me a comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you don't want to miss anything, click that subscribe button.